the Depression, of course, in the 30s, impacted everything. Rich, poor, every kind of company. Armco seemed to go through that, pretty well, but I would say that was probably a down period for them, and of course the whole country. When in the 1970s, there was a trend in a lot of U.S. companies to expand their operation by getting into a lot of other kinds of businesses, buying up other kinds of businesses. And I've forgotten the word right now, but I'll think of it. Diversify. To diversify. That worked for a while for Armco and other companies, but eventually it diffused everything to the point where this company might have been showing a profit for a while, but then it was something unrelated to the steel business, and they eventually sold that off. This company they eventually sold off. It was just a trend at the time during the 70s to diversify. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Have a lot of eggs. Well, for some companies it worked, for some it didn't. For big companies like steel, it didn't work so well. So that was a kind of a down period in going into the 80s. I had already left by that time, but in 83 or 84, just 3 or 4 years after I left, they downsized tremendously. They did away with my whole department, with a lot of those other kinds of activities, the photographic department, the audiovisual department. So leading into the 80s, in the early 80s was a period of retraction. They held on until I think the late 80s or 90s, and that's when it eventually, through that period of time, became AK Steel. There was a joint partnership between Armco and Kawasaki Steel for a brief period of time. They weathered that storm. Then those two entities started a new company. That's how they got the AK in AK Steel name. Now, it was a tremendous period of downsizing and really looking at the bottom line and getting things, a lean, mean operation. They brought a guy in from outside. He had no history with Armco. He was kind of the hatchet man. They weathered that storm, started to grow again as AK Steel, and and today they're very successful. Now, the other thing I wanted to say about that was, typically the steel industry would have now this is all after World War II, they'd have a 3-year cycle, an up cycle, and then a little down cycle, then an up cycle and a down. And a lot of it depended on the economy, of course, but also on these markets that they were so dependent on. The automotive business would be up and it would be down. If there'd be a recession, it'd be down, and come out of that, and there'd be more, everybody'd have a little more money, and so, then they'd be up again. So